Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Friday. How about that? We finally made it out here to the weekend, 11:04 a.m. That's California time here. March 7th, 2025 is the date. Friday. All right. See what we got going on out here. Latest quake on the globe shows a little .3 earthquake. Nothing big in the States right now. Let's go ahead and check out the latest here from the USGS model. Washington up here, still seeing a couple more earthquakes outside the Mount Rainier area. This is just an overall trend of elevated seismic events here across the Cascades and the Puget Sound, where I'm still watching this. Could see some larger activity out here with all the elevated movement taking place. The latest, though, 2.3 along the Cascades there, outside of Mossy Rock, Washington, 10 miles deep for that quake. There across Northern California, not a whole lot going on. There's some older movement from yesterday. The Bay Area, a little bit different story down here. We got a decent amount of earthquake activity kicking up here around the Hayward Fault, the Calaveras Fault, the Concord Fault, all roughly in the same area where last night there was a little bit of movement here off the San Andreas Fault. Actually, it started with the creeping segment down here showing some activity, which resulted in movement up here. Now it looks like some pressurization events going on here across the Bay Area, across those numerous faults there. And some of those can produce big earthquakes. There's actually a high probability on the Hayward Fault of seeing a big earthquake here soon. The latest of 1.3 on the Hayward Fault. The biggest in this little cluster appears to be a 2.4 early this morning over here across the Concord Fault. It's just, kind of stacking out here. When you get this area locked to a point, we'll see that pressurization there. The pressure transfer inland to these other secondary faults, third faults here off of the plate boundary. And that's exactly what happened here this morning. Well, late last night and early this morning. So keep an eye here on the Bay Area. That is showing some interesting activity there. Further down south, there is that movement from yesterday along the creeping segment. Although a couple more earthquakes here today, it looks like, inland. Just off the plate boundary, pressurization event. Of course, pulling off towards the east there. Let me turn off my phone. There we go. That would be beneficial. 2.3 further up north here off the San Andreas Fault near the Santa Cruz Mountains area. And then the latest 1.9 down south. So there's a little chunk of land out here along the plate boundary that's showing some elevated movement today. And last night and yesterday. Got to keep an eye on that. Could see some larger scale activity when things start to go on the uptick like that. Southern California, a couple earthquakes across the area right now. One outside of the Mojave area. That's on the Garlock Fault shear zone here. Nothing big happening down here. No unusual swarming and really nothing above 2.5 aside from one earthquake. I guess that's on the California side here. Off the Imperial Fault, northwest of Mexicali. For 2.6 at 9 o'clock this morning. Keep an eye there on the west coast. See what else we got here. Moving across Utah. This is very typical out there across the mountain ranges out there from pretty much northern Utah all the way down south here. Nothing going on across Yellowstone, but let's go double check. Make sure that that is the correct data coming in. And it looks like it is. Not a whole lot happening out there. Pretty quiet conditions, some wind events there from yesterday afternoon, but things look pretty quiet across the board for earthquake activity. Oklahoma getting a little swarm out here. I'd say a pretty hefty swarm. About 43 earthquakes stirring up out here outside of Tuttle, Oklahoma. That we got Sooner over here, Tuttle, off East Highway 37. Now, we kind of looked at this here, last night a little bit. And there's communities out here, but it's possible. We got some oil fields out here as well. This looks like a bunch of tanks out there. And it's hard to see. Not quite as prominent as the Texas area, but there's one. These are some oil fields out there. So something's going on out here. And a pretty good cluster. A lot of times, there's a mention of it, North Dibble oil field down here south. I'm not seeing any named oil fields out here, but I'm sure they're out there. Just continue to watch that. That's a lot of earthquake activity in 24 hours. 43 earthquakes. And if we go back, wow, almost to 100 earthquakes out there in the last week alone across this area of Oklahoma. No big quake. It's not, most of the time in the oil fields out here, we don't see a 5-pointer then followed up by, hundreds of aftershocks of smaller quakes. This is what normally takes place out here in the oil fields. We get a bunch of these little quakes in swarm fashion, but of course, Texas has shown us that some of those oil fields down there can get rather large as far as earthquakes go. 5.0 here within the last 30 days, 4.7 and a 4.8 out in the oil fields of Texas. A lot of them out here in the Permian Basin region. One directly underneath this oil pad for that 4.8 at the end of February there. But, man, there's littered with oil fields out here, pumping wastewater disposal ponds out there. So same thing kind of happening up there across Oklahoma. Nothing big, but, there's oil fields out there. There's potential to see bigger earthquakes than what they're having out there right now. That's a lot of earthquakes, 100 earthquakes almost there in the last week. Let me see the last 30 days. Wow. I'm glad I checked that. Look at that. 700 earthquakes. And that's just in this area. That's not the whole coverage area because the number would be different up here. But specifically in this area, wow, 700 earthquakes? Hello. Let me check out the largest magnitude here. Yeah, just a 2.2. But there is one thing that I'm noticing here. I'm sure you guys could see it as well. And the map is a migration fashion. Started off over here. This is the oldest activity. Or I should say more recent. And then today's activity further to the northwest of this region. So that's a little interesting there to see that type of event. Not for sure if there's a fault system out there or not. It does look like there's some ridges out here. But I'm sure it's not a ridge, that's a creek or a crick. However you want to pronounce it there. Interesting. Oil pumping operations as well down here. But I'm just wondering if there's some older fault systems out there that may be getting activated. It sits within the zone here. There's some fault systems further to the southwest here, but the majority of these quakes out here are related to the oil pumping operations. This not specifically within that fracture zone there of some older fault systems. You got the Mears Fault, I believe it is. Mears Fault, southeastern section. And then there may be a couple other fault systems out there. That's outside of Lawton there. But this here, I believe that's strictly related to the earthquakes. Interesting little sequence of events for sure, though. That's a lot of earthquake activity. All right, so we'll continue to watch that. Nothing big happening for now, but, there's always potential of seeing something bigger. Texas tells us that, shows us that, I should say, and tells us. New Madrid seismic zone, pretty quiet, not a whole lot going on out there. Some little movement outside of the Sweetwater, Tennessee area. A couple ones and even a 2-pointer around that area. These are fault related here. There's obviously some mountain ranges and stuff like that, so that's fault earthquake activity. As far as the world goes, and the largest magnitude here in the last 24 hours, that goes to a 5.4 earthquake here out in the Indonesia region, just off the north coast here of Sumatra. That is the largest so far. Following yesterday's 6-pointer down here, a number of aftershocks or just increasing earthquake activity. Aftershocks would be in the smaller range here as noted on the globe. A lot of deeper activity there following that 6.1 in the Chile area early yesterday. A little bit of further movement up north with a 5.4. That is north of where that 6-pointer struck. The 6-pointer struck down here. A little bit further activity up north here. So some increasing likelihood of seeing something larger out here with this type of movement. When things adjust here in the center, normally it adds pressure, upstream and down here as well. Just kind of goes hand in hand here. But things are looking quite active out there across the Peru-Chile Trench right now. We'll keep an eye on that. Middle America Trench, a lot of older activity from yesterday. The Atlantic Ocean pretty quiet aside from a little 2.7 out there. Let's see what else we got. New Zealand still popping down. There were some earthquakes. There's 4.3 again. USGS not showing anything on there, but looks like there's 4.3 around the Wellington area, just outside of there. So let's go check, see what's going on there across the GeoNet servers here. 4.3 being registered there outside of the Wellington region just about an hour or so ago. Just been a series of earthquakes, even a 4.6 further down south. 4.5, that was yesterday. 4.5, 3.5. I mean, if we go back a couple days ago, we'll see a number of 4s, even some 5s in here, 5.1. Very active out there across the South Island area. And it seems as though it's really nothing big across the North Island. Most of this movement has been right about here where this earthquake's at, southward along the plate boundary across the Alpine Fault. So I would watch that pretty closely there. That's a lot of movement to have there across that region just in a short amount of time. A major increase in earthquake activity out there. There's a 4-pointer stirred up recently. There's the other one earlier. Just kind of kicking up out here, mainly across the South Island area, so just be on guard. Things could be getting busy out there in terms of larger movement. I'll definitely watch it. USGS not picking up on that, but they may here. Might take them a little while, but they'll get to it. Let's see here. The Santorini area of Greece. Nothing major going on there. Otherwise, we would know about it. It does look like there's been a number of 3s in there today. So let's go check it out. I'm going to look at the... where is it? Right here. Super. Let's go to the networks here real quick. I'm not for sure why it says that. It's weird up there. But let's zoom into Santorini area real quick. I just want to check out the recorded view. Yeah, there's those 3s that are popping up here in the last few hours. Obviously, some smaller quakes, some 1s, and probably some 2s in there as well. But still consistent. Still looks like there's about 80 earthquakes or so occurring each day out there across the Santorini, Greece area. The numbers are holding steady there. Actually, they've increased. Well, holding steady. Each day that goes by is a day that's dropped off from the previous week, but also that includes today. So this is the last 7 days of earthquake activity. The number really has not dropped because the numbers are staying pretty consistent each day for the counts, the earthquake counts. But yeah, 489 earthquakes, a couple 3s out there. No unusual migration. Periodically, we'll see some earthquake activity out there across Santorini, Colombo region, but nothing of unusual activity. That 3.6 striking deep 16 kilometers underneath that area in that cluster with the blue flashing circle. Aside from that, let's see here. Let me check this out. 2.4. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary in terms of unusual migration or, like a big uptick somewhere else. It's just still producing earthquakes out here after thousands and thousands of earthquakes here over the last few weeks. It's just holding steady. Who knows what's going to happen? Got to watch that, though. It does have potential. All right, let's see what else we have out there across the globe. I think that's about it. A couple areas of uptick. Obviously, Oklahoma. You're not seeing it here on the Earthquake 3D Globe because I only have it set here for 2.5 or 2.2 and above. If we had it like that, obviously, we'd be able to see where a lot of these smaller quakes are happening. But it makes too much of a clutter on the globe. So I try to keep it roughly at about... that's still too low. Roughly about 2.1, 2.2 or so. No need to bring in all the 1s. But there's definitely a lot of swarming going out there across Oklahoma. It's crazy. 2.2 or 2.7 right now across the Indonesia Islands area. Go check out space weather, see if anything's happening on the sun. Well, I wish I had some good news for increasing activity, but it's not a whole lot. Unfortunately, things are quiet. B 9.6. That's pretty low. In fact, it's been around the B flare category for the last couple days or so. Little C flare movement, but that's not seeing too much in terms of solar flare activity either. As far as potential goes, not a whole lot. Here's the latest image. It looks like it's up to date, up to speed here in terms of the connection now. Clear-cut core with this sunspot. Really not expecting much from it. It'll probably die off. This one here is dying. Newer area back here on the southeastern quadrant. Really not impressed with it. We'll have to watch that, though. And there's a newer area also up on the northeastern or eastern limb here of the sun. Not really impressed with that either. It is what it is. We just got to go with the flow. The far side watch. This is. I have to click that. Here's the updated one. This was put out yesterday, but you can see here's the eastern limb. We got that one newer area coming around the about center disk eastern limb here. Not really impressed with it. There's a couple larger regions here on the far side that may be of interest here once they get around the bend. This is the eastern limb here. All these sunspots are going that way, and of course continuation this way off to the western limb right here. So we'll watch it. One, two, maybe two larger areas out there of coverage, but who knows exactly if they're complex or not. I normally look for this when I'm, seeing if we're going to have any maybe flaring potentials here in the coming days or weeks. And they're pretty large. These coverage areas are pretty large, but we'll see what happens. Not a whole lot of flaring activity until then, though, folks. I'm forecasting a less than 1% for X flare. M flare for me about 45. I think I have it at about 45% chance or so. I may drop that though because there's really not a whole lot. No major roars there in the forecast. Taking a look here at the next 5 close approach asteroids here to the planet. Well, got one fairly close here, 278,000 miles for a 21-foot bus-size asteroid. That's zooming by today, newly discovered. Here's an older one. That's fairly safe, though, at 726,000 miles. Everything else looks fairly safe here, folks, but there's always new asteroids being discovered here with that date there, 2025, and designated number. This is from 2017. It's been tracked here for a little while. It's about 50 feet in diameter there. Forest Storm Prediction Center, severe weather outlook today. Only a marginal risk here across that'd be north central Texas there outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Really just mainly due to hail. A little bit of hail threat. But I find, not the big hail, but some of the smaller hail, pea size, maybe even a little bit larger, are excellent for cleaning your car if you're driving in them. It's like a scrub. I took my vehicle here out in a thunderstorm here in Northern California a couple days ago. We actually picked up some decent sized hail, a little bit larger than pea-sized hail, and my car was a little dirty prior to going storm chasing there, but afterwards, sparkly clean. It gives an excellent scrubbing type wash to it. It's actually pretty neat. But, anything above that, then you start looking at dents and window chips and all that stuff, which I don't really want to do. Numerical models out here. Got West Coast, California getting some rainfall. The first system there expected to impact Southern California Monday into Tuesday. Got maybe some severe weather out there across the southeast as we head towards early this next week as well. Still got the weekend to get through. The weekend, not a whole lot. Maybe some showers and some snow out here across this area of the country, but nothing really severe lined up. There's a decent system there expected to impact Northern California. In fact, the entire West Coast there, Wednesday night into Thursday. That's a very nice storm, actually, for this time of year. And that's going to work its way east, stir up some maybe some severe weather out there. Look at those precipitation rates there. That's actually rather interesting. That's going to be for Saturday night, and then it kind of zooms off there a little bit. Back behind that, well, got maybe some more severe weather, it looks like, lined up across the south. as we head deeper into March. Just an overall pattern of chances of severe weather and precipitation out here. I mean, it is getting close to springtime, so things will obviously start getting elevated out here. The total accumulated precipitation runs here show quite a bit of rainfall across the Northern California area, and there's your rain out there across the southeast and around Tennessee and whatnot. So looking quite wet out there as we almost finish off March here in a couple weeks. I mean, it's still early. We're still just in the first, almost second week of March. Aside from that, folks, a quick glance here at the seismograph stations. Pretty quiet. Nothing showing up there across the graphs. And we'll just kind of watch things today, see how it plays out. Keep an eye there across the Bay Area. Looks like another little earthquake there across the Bay. And we'll catch you guys out here for the Friday night update. Stay safe out there, and, of course, have a good one. We'll see you guys soon.